Welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unknown. I'm really excited about tonight's podcast. I've got Mike on the line with me, and Mike has what I would call a Class A encounter that happened to him when he was just a kid in the Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee. Really scary encounter. I'm going to let him get right into it, but if you have an encounter, a story that you would like to share with us, you can send us an email at video@jscreativear.com. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your platform and getting the word out there. Well, I'll give a little backstory. Grew up here in Northeast Ohio. Had, 4 other siblings and a couple older brothers. And a lot of corn country out here and soybeans and rolling hills. Well, I was about 10, 11 years old. My older brother, we used to kind of sleep on the floor, watch a late night movie, whatever was on back in the day. And he came back 2 or 3 in the morning. I've never seen him like this. White as a ghost, shaking, actually laid down beside us, like on the blankets on the floor, like just shaking. And I thought, that's odd. It's my big, tough older brother. And took him a long time because we're like, what's up? What's going on? What's going on? And he finally, maybe half hour, told us. He said he was at his girlfriend's house, which was, maybe 4 or 5 miles away, walk there. And he reckoned on staying the night, and her daddy would have no part of it, so he sent him packing. Well, instead of walking way down this dirt road, he thought, well, I'll just be smart and cut through these woods and take off a couple miles and then pop out on our street. Like I said, we're out in the country. And there's a big lake in there. It's just kind of a thick area. Well, anyway, he said he was walking through, and he had a handful of shotgun shells he had got off of her brother, and he had them in his pockets. And he said he cut through there, and he kind of sounded like something was like one step behind him. Something was following him. And he said he would stop and take 3 or 4 real quick, and then it would too. And then he'd stop, try to trick it, and it would always take one more step, like, oops. And after a couple of times when he knew, something is definitely bipedal stalking me, he said he took off running. He said he was never been so scared in his life. He was actually trying to thinking if I can make these shells go off, hitting the 12 gauge shell in his teeth or put him in a crook of a tree. And he said it was just busting trees, sound like a bulldozer coming through there. My brother ran out and just plowed field. There's maybe 500-acre plowed, tilled field, fresh tilled. Got about halfway out there to moonlight, and he said he wished he never turned around. Well, he turned around, and he said he's seen this massive, grayish, hairy, bipedal creature standing right at the wood line, and it wouldn't step out. It could have had him if it wanted him, but I think it's just kind of getting him out of his turf. But so we went back that next morning. Me and my other brothers, he never went back, and we knew we'd cut his track. I grew up hunting, trapping. Since I was 8 and 9 years old, we'd walk for miles before school through the snow, checking our trap line. So I loved the woods. I was never afraid of the woods. And we cut his track, and sure enough, and I was a lot taller, lankier. And it was hard for me to keep. We saw his tracks come out of the woods, turn back to look at the woods, and then they just tripled in stride. So he was terrified. Whatever he saw, he was terrified. Parents get divorced. We end up moving, me and my mom and siblings, down to Tennessee. And that's where I had my encounter, was Tennessee, northeastern Tennessee up there, about 30, 40 more miles north of Knoxville. It is mountains as far as you can see. And there was the place, the locals, real small little dinky town. And the locals used to kind of get up in there, the older people. And there's a big rock. You can see it sticking out of the face of the mountain when the leaves are off. Big, giant boulder, bigger than a house. We get up above it and you come down, and you still got to climb about 20 feet up the rock, and it's just flat, camping out. So me and my little sister were going to go there, just a summer day, school's out, back in, I think, 84. And so Mom was like, hey, take my watch, be back at darkish. And we go from, miles and miles all day out there. So I was leading the pack, and there's a little bitty trail, and it forks off. Well, I took the left because I knew the rock was that way, but that wasn't the trail we used to go up on my older brothers. You go up to the ridge and then cut over. So I got lost. We got him half hour into it, and then just dead-ended the trail. There's nothing, thickets, brush, like a wall. So I asked my sister, I was like, you want to go all the way back and lose like an hour or so? Or do you want to, I know if we just go straight up, we'll hit the ridge and I'll know where I'm at. And so we decided to go straight up. So we were way off of any beaten path, and there was steep angles. You're reaching up and grabbing saplings sometimes to go up these leaf litter. then you'd have, you know, how the mountain goes down, and then you'd have a drop-off cliff, you know, 15, 20 some foot ledge, and then it continue. All kinds of caves, real cool. And we see that tree, like, boy, it was scratched, and we kind of like, oh, maybe it's a bear or something. I don't know what it was, but I remember we kind of mentioned that. We're about 3/4 way top, and I saw it. Shoot, if I really start thinking about it, I still get goosebumps. And I looked over at my sister, because I was going to see, and her mouth was already open. This thing, you know, we're going up the mountain, so it's at that grade, and we look up, and there's a, you know, ledge up there. And there's like a big rock wall behind one of his caves, and it was squatting there. And like I said, I grew up in the woods, and art and biology was my thing, and it was almost like you would just bend down all at the knees and put your right hand fingertips or something on the ground. We could see it was really reddish brown, like orange, long hair. And it was just sitting there up on that ledge. I don't know how we got that close to it, if it just came out of the cave or what, but we were 25 yards maybe, wide open, you know, the woods, and my sister right away, Bigfoot, Bigfoot. And I'm trying to, you know, I'm the big brother. I had a big machete with me and everything. I thought, you know, take on the world, defend myself, you know. And she kept saying that. And my mind's trying to rationalize this. So it's kind of, my mouth's kind of speaking. I'm like, maybe, I'm whispering, maybe it's a hiker, you know, looking at the view. We turn around, there's nothing, just thick hollers and woods. And I was going to sneak around the side, and I knew what it was. You know, I knew something was wrong. Something was bad wrong. It's not a bear. It's not a person. I'm going, staring at it, almost too afraid to breathe, like kind of almost holding your breath. And I'm watching it, and we watch it look to its left. There's a bush there. As it's squatting, just reach over with an arm and, you know, opposable thumb, and grab the bush, and we could actually hear it pull off the bush. And it was eating the leaves. I don't know if it had berries on it. I couldn't see that if it was berries, but it was eating the leaves and everything. And about the third time I did that, I'm just like focused on it. And when it turned, I see a prominent crown, like a big silverback gorilla, and the face protruded out, kind of ape-like. And that's when my blood ran cold, because I knew that's not a human. And it's not a bear. It has a muzzle and a rounded head and the ears. You know, I know how to draw. I know the gestation periods. I'm like, that's the worst part about it, is because that's what you're looking at. It's not supposed to exist. It's a myth. But what it had, you're looking at it. You know, that was like the most, like, people don't realize the fear. You're terrified, and you're just, because it's not like seeing, oh, it's a croc or it's a bear. That's not supposed to exist. And there it is, eating leaves right in front of us. Like, you know, and it was just, like I said, all almost an orangutan color, maybe a little bit more brown in there, but just really vivid. And the sunlight's kind of mottled through the leaves. You could see it really bright up here when it would turn its head in the sun. And I imagine we were 10 or 15 minutes. She's like whispering, like, run, run. And I was like too scared to run and too scared to stay. I didn't know what to do. My brain fried. But we're just observing this thing, and I'm like, there's absolutely, positively, it's not like I ran across the road with, or, you know, peeked behind a tree. We're staring at it, and it doesn't, every once in a while, though, it was horrifying. It looked like it was catch a little, or scent wafting up towards you, because it would stop, and it would almost come up like that a little bit, and then it would try to look down through the trees to see what it, you know, and then you're just really just like, and I would avert my eyes even. I didn't want him to see my eyes, because I know hunting, that's the biggest thing, the prominent thing is the eyeball. So I was actually squinting and not looking at it, because I just did not want it to see us. I don't know how I did. We must have been just below the thing. But after about 10 or 15 minutes, finally I got summoned the courage. My sister begged just every whisper, please, let's run. Let's just go. I didn't want it to know we were there. You know, it's just right now, he doesn't know we're here. But finally, after 10 or 15 minutes of watching this thing, craning it down, looking down, trying to see what he smelled or heard down there, I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to run. And I whispered, 1, 2, 3. And as you turn around to run down a steep mountain with, you know, leaves, trees and whatnot, if there was ever any doubt in our minds what that was, the crunch of our first step, turn and run, it let out the most indescribable, god-awful roar that there's no other animal on earth that can do that, what that thing did. It sounded like, massive lungs. It just, the low bass of it, it felt like it went through you. Like, just, it just reverberated down through the hollers. I literally did a front flip. I was trying, my mind and feet weren't connected, and when that thing hit me on that first step, and you're running downhill, I did a complete front flip. I guess I dropped my machete at the time. I don't even know what happened to it. I didn't end up with it. And we're literally sliding on our butts. I looked over a couple of times with my sister. She's in a Superman pose. At one time, a tree, a sapling, she going down so fast, and she'd get up and run. And I'm a couple of years older than her. I'm a guy. And I'm like, we still laugh about this part to this day. It's like, how were you so fast? I want to say I manned up and go in without me. But I was terrified, and I was begging her, please don't leave me. She was way down there. We'd go off a 15, 20-foot cliff on our butts, hit the ground, roll, and keep just straight down that thing. And we'd hit walls of thickets where you'd be like a fly. And to this day, if I go like this to my sister, she knows, because you're running full bore and you're stuck in briars and you just push through. And we finally got out the other, and we ended up going down this old washout, like down through the holler, big ankle busting rocks, an old dry creek bed, and horizontal trees that fall. She's clearing them like a little gazelle, and I'm wiping out. And I'm begging her, I'm saying, pray, please pray, don't leave me. We get down to the bottom, and it was like a cliche little shack, and the dude was literally sitting out there whittling on something on his back deck. And we come out in shock, and my sister's like, Bigfoot, help. We're shredded, bloody, head to toe from just ripping through briars, going off the ledges. And he never did nothing, just sit there staring at us. We walked a few miles back down the tracks and got home. And once I was home and safe, that's when it really hit me, and I broke down. I was bawling, and they said we were white as ghosts. My sister started throwing up, like literally physically in shock. We told my brothers, and they went back there with guns, and, I said, there's the base, and they, I'm not going there, I won't go in there. They came back a few hours later, and they said they looked like a herd of elephants. They said, why didn't you go around this trail? I was like, you're not stopping to look for a trail. You're going down, as fast as you can. And they went up, they said, I think they found my mom's watch or her shoe. We were just losing everything just to get away from that, That was the most absolutely horrifying, experience of my lifetime. And like I said, it's hard to actually put in words. And years later, it was 7 years, which really killed me, that I did not go in the woods. I finally ended up facing my fears, got a 44 mag, went back there with my ex-wife. And I actually got a photo by about half. I just had to go back up there. And now, as I've learned more about them, I don't want to try to shoot them. I thought I was, with the 44, I think they're more of a familial type group. There's 2 or 3 of them. And no, I'm glad I didn't see it again. I'm glad I faced my fears. But to me, camping, kayaking, hiking, survivaling, we'd go out in the woods for a couple of days in the winter with no tent. We'd make a little lean-to and have a little fire. And for 7 years, I would not step foot in the woods. That was one of the worst parts of being afraid. As for a fact that it's out there, moved up here, whatnot, life happened. I'm back up in Ohio. About 5 years ago, me and a buddy gonna go frog gigging out here. It's a little wildlife management area. And it's, again, middle of nowhere. A lot of people don't even know it's there. There's a lake. You got to drive about a half a mile down this ratio on either end of the lake. And you can't fish it from the bank, which is cool because no one's ever there. You might get a kayak. I've been there on a Saturday, Sunday, nobody. So we're frog gigging. Him and his son, about 16, 17-year-old son, go around the other side of this cove. And it's about 2 in the morning. And I started getting on the other side of the lake. And I'm literally crawling probably 100 yards, seemed like a mile, but through rabbit holes of, down in Florida, I would think mangrove, just a ratted nest. I'm on my hands and knees. I'm trying to get to the water, but you can't. It's so thick. And I was getting aggravated. And I come close to the water. You hear all the bullfrogs croaking. There's a wall of blueberries. Start chowing down. All of a sudden, I hear my buddy hollering across the other side, flashing his light, and I can't hear what he's saying. So I was like, all right, I'm going to head out of here. I can't get to the water. I'm crawling on my hands and knees through these rabbit holes. And I come across these tracks. I wear a size 14 boot. They were a little bit bigger than my boot on the exterior of my boot. And there was also a smaller set. It was instantly I knew mama and the baby. They were here for the blueberries. And I've never felt so much vulnerable because I'm on my hands and knees, with a frog gig. I got pictures of them on one of the old SD cards in my drawer from my old phone. Crystal clear, pristine. I always carry like tracking stuff with me, the plaster pairs, but I rode with my buddy. But there was no doubt. And when I finally met up, him, he goes, dude, something huge was splashing. Thank God I ran them out. They went across the cove. And he said it sounded like they were trying to flank him. So he actually told his son, run in the car and lock the car. Because he said it sounded like they were trying to get around the side. So I didn't hear the splash, and they must have heard me, grumbling and griping to get through there. And then about 6-7 years back, my wife's at RN. She was heading to work, and I was in Kentucky helping a buddy for a couple of weeks. And she had texted me and said, I think I've been listening to your Bigfoot stories too much. I was like, what are you talking about? She said, I thought I seen a wild animal. Come back up Ohio, and she elaborates more. I'm like, I thought it was like a coyote or something. She saw a fog was coming up and coming off the lake, something huge and black and hairy. Boom, boom, stepped across. She kept talking about the butt muscles and the legs and thighs. She goes, they were massive. I'm like, honey, you saw a Bigfoot. What else could it be? You saw a huge black thing, muscular thing run across the road on 2 legs. That's, So she kind of gets embarrassed when I bring that up. Sorry. But yeah. So, so she's seen that, but I'm trying to think it's about it. But there's been a lot of stories up here in northeastern Ohio for decades. But that's pretty much about my thing. It's like I said, I've seen the tracks, and I've seen it firsthand. I observed them for at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It seemed like an eternity. But now, like I said, it was traumatizing for a long time.
That is one of the most terrifying encounters I could imagine, that I've heard. And I can imagine as a kid, how old were you?
I was 14. Yep, 14 years old.
So at 14 years old, seeing something like that as a kid, how has that impacted your life?
Like I said, now I know for 100% fact that they exist. Before, you just kind of, maybe kind of a joke. For like I said, for 7 years, I didn't do what I loved. I didn't go outdoors. I didn't go in the woods. I didn't hunt. I just stayed away from the woods, and I had to go back and face that fear. But now like I said, I've studied them and heard hundreds of eyewitness accounts, and I don't think I would ever. Before, I was like, I'm gonna get one and prove, And now, as I got older, I'm like, I don't care if no one believes me. I got nothing to prove. I know what I saw. My sister knows what we saw. I know they exist. I'm gonna leave them be. I've heard some pretty intelligent type kind of interactions with other folks, and they know what a gun is. And I don't want to. I'm out there to hurt them. I think I have a theory that some of these aggressive ones, like every other animal on Earth, has a mating season. As a hunter, I kind of made that connection. I would love to look at the country, the reports, and see what time, what season they are. Because you get a big buck, perhaps like my brother, that ran him out of his turf. He might, hey, this is mine, I'm looking for a mate. But I think they do. They're kind of like every other primate. They leave footprints. They eat. I've seen them eat. They leave scat and DNA. They're physical. I think it's an unknown primate.
That makes sense. I was going to ask you what you thought that was, and that really makes sense to me. A lot of people say that there's some kind of primate, and there's a lot of evidence for that, and it does make sense. And nobody really knows what it is, but if you had the opportunity to see one again, would you want to?
Yeah, I was torn about that. Honestly, I do. I think I've been blessed and fortunate to have seen it. You know what I mean? If it was under the right circumstances, yes, I would love to. Like I said, I believe they're highly. You look at like a chimp, their strength, 5-6 times an adult human being, and they're intelligent. And you got the great apes, gorillas actually learning sign language. This thing is so much larger. How much more brain capacity and how intelligent are they? Just as a physical, I know there's Orby things and that kind of, but just from a physical thing, they're highly intelligent.
Man, Mike, what an incredible story. I really appreciate you again taking the time to share that. I'm sure that was life-changing, one of the scariest experiences I've heard so far in this series, but I appreciate you coming on the show. And if you have a story you would like to share with us, you can reach us by email at video@jscreativear.com. We hope to give you guys a safe place to share your stories. Without you, this podcast would not be possible. So thanks for listening. Like and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.